Hi, my name is Isaiah Andersen, and I will be presenting and discussing my source poster, The Potential Impact of Race, Ethnicity, and Skin Tone on Voter Judgments of Candidates of Color. We know from previous research that a candidate's physical and visible appearance plays a large role in a potential voter's decision when choosing a candidate. Unfortunately, skin tone bias can impact whether a candidate is elected or not. Candidates with lighter skin tones are seen as more knowledgeable and better educated compared to a potential dark-skinned candidate running for the same position. Research has shown that candidates are remembered having lighter skin tones even if they are dark-skinned. Recent research also illustrates how ethnicity influences the perception of citizenship. All of these factors can influence voters when they choose the political candidates at the ballot box. Considering existing research, we hypothesize that when shown a political candidate with the same skin tone, white participants would favor the African American rather than the Mexican American candidate. Further, we expected that interpersonal judgments such as perceived expertise, warmth towards the candidate, and voting preferences would predict how light the skin tone of the candidate was remembered to be. Lastly, we hypothesized that voters' political orientation would predict our outcomes of interest. To test our hypothesis, we collected data from 190 undergraduate students enrolled in psychology classes here at Central. The participants were randomly assigned to see pictures of an African American candidate or a Mexican American candidate, both of which had what is considered a brown skin tone. After that, we asked participants how warm they felt toward the candidate and how likely they were to vote for him. We also collected the participants' interpersonal judgments by, for example, asking them to rate how trustworthy they perceived the candidate to be. Before providing demographic questions, we randomly assigned participants to either see an array of slightly lighter 6 images or an array of slightly darker images and asked them to choose the image they believe they had seen at the beginning of the study. This was used to test for potential skin tone memory. The participants' political affiliations were also coded as conservative, moderate, or liberal. The data suggested that the interaction between voters' racial groups and candidates' race and ethnicity was significant. This means that while white participants were more likely to vote for the African American candidate, non-white participants showed more positive attitudes for the Mexican American politician. In line with previous research, the data also showed a significant effect of skin tone memory bias, which means that in general, participants remembered the political candidate as having a lighter skin tone than he actually had. This skin tone memory also influenced the perception of trustworthiness and expertise of the candidate. That is, the lighter the candidate was remembered to be, the more expertise and trustworthiness was attributed to him. Finally, we found that the participants' political affiliation had a significant effect on our outcomes of interest. Specifically, our data suggested that contrary to liberals who did not differ in their evaluations of candidates based on race and ethnicity, conservatives felt warmer toward the African American than the Mexican American candidate. Generally, our findings suggest that an African American candidate with a lighter skin tone may be more appealing to white voters than a Mexican American of the same skin tone. On the other hand, we found that non-white participants showed more positive attitudes towards the Mexican American political candidate who might have been perceived as more prototypical. Given previous research, this effect may reflect a relative skin tone bias because the African American individual is perceived as having a relatively lighter skin tone for their racial ethnicity group. It is also possible that the African American may have been more perceived as more American, and therefore thought to be more fit for public office. Additionally, we found that the warmer participants felt toward the candidate, the more they trusted him, and they felt more perceived to be an expert, the lighter they remembered his skin tone to be. Finally, we also found that conservatives felt warmer toward the African American than the Mexican American candidate. Liberal participants did not show such a preference. All in all, this study shows the impact that skin tone, political affiliation, and identity factors have on voting behavior and interpersonal judgments. Our findings are important because they inform scholars of political strategists who are interested in diversifying the political landscape. Thank you for viewing my source poster. I hope everyone was able to gain new information on the subject presented to you. Thank you.